To the Manor Born is an icon of 1980s British comedy, once a dream of real-life aristocrats. But the real lives of its cast members sometimes turned into a long-running nightmare. Some died in horrific accidents, while others turned to drugs as a form of escape. What happened after the spotlight dimmed? The story that is about to unfold will leave you in disbelief. Peter Bowles as Richard de Vere. Peter John Bowles was born on October 16, 1936, in London, England. At the age of 43, he played Richard de Vere in the sitcom To the Manor Born, 1979, portraying a charming Czechoslovakian millionaire who has a competitive and romantic relationship with Lady Audrey Forbes Hamilton. The role made him a beloved national television icon in Britain, with millions of viewers drawn to the witty, humorous, and high-society banter between the two main characters. Bowles's childhood was one of invisible boundaries of status and class. The son of a chambermaid and a nanny to the British aristocracy, he grew up in cramped houses in Nottingham at the outbreak of World War II, living between two worlds, close to the upper class, but forever an outsider. He carried a sense of alienation even after he entered the arts. Due to prejudice about his appearance, he was warned at RADA that he was too dark to play an Englishman, and for much of his early career he was pigeonholed as a villain or a foreigner. The subsequent success of To the Manor Born presented a painful paradox. The BBC refused to give him dramatic roles, believing he was stuck in a comedy routine. Despite his challenging career, Bowles's marriage was a lasting and admirable one in the entertainment industry. He married Susan Bennett in 1961 and remained with her for more than 60 years until her death, raising 3 children together at their home in Barnes, southwest London. That persistence, however, did not mean he was immune to pressure. Being excluded from the British television mainstream forced Bowles to adapt by creating, producing, and writing his own projects, such as Lytton's Diary and Perfect Scoundrels. Behind the spotlight and successful performances was a quiet man struggling to not be forgotten, not to be marginalized. Peter Bowles died on March 17, 2022, at the age of 85 after a long battle with cancer. His net worth was estimated at $5 million, the result of more than 6 decades of work on stage and screen, from the Old Vic to the West End, from the BBC to ITV. Despite owning Rolls-Royces and Porsches, he maintained a low-key and elegant lifestyle until his final days. Angela Thorne as Marjorie Frobisher. Angela Margaret Leslie Thorne was born on January 25, 1939, in Karachi, British India. In 1979, at the age of 40, she played Marjorie Frobisher in the film To the Manor Born, the loyal, humorous, and devoted friend of Audrey Forbes Hamilton. With her charm and elegant style, Marjorie was more than just a supporting character. She was the soul that made the film come alive and warm. Angela's childhood was one of gunfire and cultural immersion. She spent the first 5 years of her life in India before returning to England with her parents. The daughter of an army doctor who had served at the Battle of Monte Cassino, she grew up under the shadow of strict military discipline and the scars of war. Despite her private schooling and formal training at the Guildhall School of Music and Drama, her path to acting was not a smooth one. Starting out in children's theater, she took on dozens of small roles in provincial theaters from York to Sheffield before gaining notice in the West End. Despite her talent and education, her graceful looks were considered unattractive enough for modern leading ladies, a prejudice she fought quietly for years. Her marriage to actor Peter Penry Jones lasted for more than 40 years, until his death from bowel cancer in 2009. It was the biggest shock of her life, not only because of the loss, but also because he had been her co-star, partner, and emotional support for nearly half a century. After her husband's death, Angela became more private. She rarely appeared in public, although both her sons, Lawrence and Rupert, were successful in the arts. Her life behind the scenes seemed quiet and private, but not lonely. Friends described her as gentle, caring, and devoted to her craft until the end. Her performance as Margaret Thatcher in Anyone for Denise, which earned her a nomination for the prestigious Laurence Olivier Award, was also a testament to her versatility and political depth as an actress. Angela Thorne passed away peacefully at her home in Battersea on June 16, 2023, at the age of 84. Her net worth is estimated at $2 million, amassed over more than 50 years of quiet but tireless dedication. Daphne Hurd, as Mrs. Polovica Delia Phyllis Daphne Hurd, was born on August 1, 1904, in Plymouth, Devon, England. In 1979, at the age of 75, she played Mrs. Polovica, Richard de Vere's quirky and witty European mother, in the hit film series To the Manor Born. With her distinctive Czech accent and her witty yet innocent lines, Mrs. Pooh became an unforgettable highlight, bringing gentle yet profound laughter to the entire series. It was also the role that brought Daphne Hurd to millions of audiences in her later years. But behind the image of an optimistic old woman was a life full of hardship and difficulty. Born in the early 20th century, Daphne grew up in the context of post-war Britain, a society where women were constrained by prejudice and had few career options. Despite studying at the prestigious RADA and later teaching at the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School, she spent decades struggling with supporting roles, mostly as cranky old ladies, maids, or witches, as in Doctor Who. Even when she was cast in To the Manor Born, some thought she was too old to be famous. But Daphne proved otherwise, with her wit, stage presence, and ability to breathe life into even the smallest of roles. Daphne Hurd's personal life is as bleak as many of her characters. She is very private, unmarried, has no children, and has never publicly acknowledged any personal relationships. Some sources mention a brief, tense, but quickly ended marriage, but there is no official confirmation. Throughout her long career, she avoided parties and rarely appeared in public outside of work. It was this isolation that made her portrayal of Mrs. Polovica all the more vivid, as if she had poured her real life into a fictional character, making the audience believe her every sincere word. Daphne Hurd died on June 22, 1983 in Bristol, at the age of 78. Although she did not leave behind a huge fortune, her net worth is estimated at $500,000, a modest figure given her nearly half-century of career. But the artistic value she left behind is immense. John Rudling as Brabinger. John William Rudling was born on 31st August 1907 in South Norwood, London. At the age of 72, he played Brabinger, a loyal, quiet, but thoughtful butler in the popular television series To the Manor Born, 1979. With a stern face, calm demeanor, and a characteristic sense of humor, Rudling portrayed a quiet but memorable character. Before his screen fame, Rudling worked as a technical designer, a stable job but not a passion. He turned to stage acting with the Royal Shakespeare Company, RSC, and performed with Ensa, entertaining British troops during the bombardments of World War II. His years traveling around England with touring troops brought him valuable experience, but also long periods of instability and loneliness. His marriage to his wife Edith, which was rarely mentioned in the press, was said to have been strained, as he was often away for work, and their relationship became increasingly distant over time. Despite having no children, he chose to remain silent and focus entirely on his work to avoid personal loss. During the filming of the second part of To the Manor Born, Rudling suffered a serious heart attack, forcing him to take a temporary break. Brabinger's absence caused concern among many viewers, and when he returned in the honors list, everyone noticed the tiredness in his eyes and slow steps. However, he still tried to complete the role in the most professional way, despite his failing health. Close friends revealed that even after being advised to rest, Rudling quietly refused, because the stage and screen were all he had left in his final years. When his marriage became cold, he had no children by his side, and acting opportunities became increasingly rare. He died on December 18, 1983, in Leytonstone, London, of respiratory complications, just 4 years after making his mark as Brabanger. His estate, according to his will, was estimated at $500,000, largely due to his decades of tireless work on television and the stage. Gerald Sim as Reverend Gerald Grant. Sim was born on June 4, 1925, in Liverpool, England. At the age of 54, he played the Reverend Father of Grantley in the hit series To the Manor Born, 1979, a role that brought him special affection for its charm, humor, and deep intelligence. With his polished voice and calm demeanor, Gerald became a familiar face on British television, playing doctors, judges, and clergymen. This role not only marked the peak of his career, but also became the image that was most closely associated with him until the end of his life. Gerald Sim's childhood was not very glorious. As the youngest child in a middle-class family, he grew up in the shadow of his famous older sister, actress Sheila Sim. Passionate about acting after hearing a radio broadcast in 1943, he auditioned for the role of Radha and began his career with small, unknown roles. Despite a steady career of over 100 roles, he was often cast in supporting roles, quietly contributing to the success of other roles. This often left him out of the limelight. Although his talent and dedication were always recognized by his peers, in 1967 he married actress Deirdre Benner, his understanding and constant companion for 32 years. However, the seemingly lasting marriage ended when she died in 1999. Since then, Gerald has withdrawn from the limelight and lives in seclusion at Denville Hall Nursing Home in Northwood, where his brother-in-law, director Richard Attenborough, and his sister are also buried. The three men's rooms were adjacent to each other, but they passed away one by one, leaving Gerald alone in a space that once held fond memories. He passed away on December 11, 2014, at the age of 89. Although he never made headlines, his net worth is estimated at $1 million, the result of decades of tireless artistic work. Michael Bilton as Ned Robert. Michael Bilton was born on 14 December 1919 in Cottingham, East Riding of Yorkshire, England. He was 61 when he played Ned, the devoted gardener and occasional butler to Lady Audrey in the popular sitcom To the Manor, 1979. Although his screen time was short, his character made a lasting impression with his wit, calm demeanor, and devotion. After World War II, when he was wounded at the Battle of El Alamein, Bilton returned with both physical and mental scars. The rise from the battlefield to the stage was a rocky one. His later roles, ranging from comedic to melancholy, often reflected the dark side of his inner self. Offstage, Bilton's personal life was rife with turmoil. He endured 2 failed marriages, the first to Sally West in 1944, and the second to actress Valerie Newbold from 1953 to 1967. Childless and without an heir to his legacy, he spent his final years in solitude, a loneliness he once described as a hollow echo behind the stage curtain. As he aged, Bilton's health deteriorated due to debilitating arthritis, eventually forcing him to abandon the stage, his only spiritual refuge after the war and his broken marriages. However, he made a lasting impression as Basil Makepeace, the humorous forest god in the series Waiting for God. It was also his last role. Shortly after completing filming for the 4th season, Bilton died suddenly on the 5th of November 1993 in Berkhamsted, Hertfordshire, at the age of 73. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at $500,000. A modest figure, but a true reflection of the life of a dedicated artist who spent more time behind the scenes than in the spotlight. Michael Ripper as Trotter. Michael George Ripper was born on January 27, 1913, in Portsmouth, England. In 1979, at the age of 66, he appeared in the television series To the Manor Born as Trotter, a simple supporting character who brought humor to the developing story of British aristocracy. Although not a leading man, Ripper's presence brought a distinct, solid quality that audiences would never forget. Once a fixture of Hammer Films, Ripper had a long career that included over 30 film appearances, though most of them were minor roles such as a coachman, a tavern keeper, or a gravekeeper. His career suffered a significant setback after a thyroid operation in 1952 weakened his voice, forcing him to leave the stage where his love of acting began. This change led to financial pressure, as he turned to acting but was often given small roles, low pay, and few lines. However, he remained loyal to the profession, choosing a quiet life, away from the halo of celebrity. Michael Ripper's private life was not smooth either. He had 3 marriages, 2 of which ended in divorce. His relationship with Catherine Finn, his second wife and the mother of one of his 2 children, ended in 1978, leaving behind silent wounds that he rarely spoke about. Towards the end of his life, he lived alone in London, without luxury or scandal, but without a close support system. In his final days, he lived quietly in a modest apartment, which is said to still be filled with photos of his previous roles. Michael Ripper died on June 28, 2000, at the age of 87. His net worth was estimated at $500,000, a modest sum for more than 60 years of filmmaking, but perhaps enough to attest to a life lived to the fullest, quietly but profoundly. Bill Travers as Arthur Smith. Bill Travers, full name William Inglis Lyndon Travers, was born on January 3, 1922. In 1980, at the age of 58, he appeared in the television series To the Manor Born as Arthur Smith, a supporting character who was loved for his charm and approachability. Although he only appeared once in an episode of Tramps and Poachers, the role revealed a softer, more casual side to his long and dramatic film career. Bill Travers' childhood was not an easy one. At the age of 18, he volunteered for World War II, joining the Gurkhas and Special Forces units in India and Burma. During one dangerous campaign, he contracted malaria and was forced to escape Japanese pursuit by disguising himself as a Chinese and trekking hundreds of miles through dense jungle terrain to join the Allied forces. Witnessing the devastation of the atomic bomb in Hiroshima left him with lifelong trauma. All the stress, loss, and psychological trauma continued to haunt him, even after he left the military to pursue an acting career. His marriage to actress Virginia McKenna, his co-star in the classic Born Free, was a journey both sweet and challenging. They married in 1957, united by their passion for cinema and shared ideals of animal conservation. However, fame, the pressures of work, and the burden of raising 4 children often took their toll on their relationship. Although they appeared to be an ideal couple, behind the scenes their marriage was plagued by moments of crisis and emotional distance. Bill's final years were physically and emotionally draining as he traveled to Europe's deteriorating zoos, filming and exposing animal abuse, a mission that was both humane and deeply haunting. On March 29, 1994, Bill Travers died in his sleep of a heart attack at his peaceful home in South Holmwood, Surrey, at the age of 72. His net worth is estimated at $1 million, largely from his acclaimed film roles and decades of television work. His devoted wife, Virginia McKenna, and son, Will Travers, have continued the work he began, maintaining and expanding the Born Free Foundation. Peter Penry Jones as Gay Forth. Peter David Penry Jones was born on 20th May 1938 in Cardiff, Wales. At the age of 43, he appeared in the popular series To the Manor Born, 1981, as Gay Forth, a sophisticated supporting character who added depth to the humorous story of British aristocracy. Throughout his career, he appeared regularly in television series such as Colditz, Bergerac, Howard's Way, and Midsummer Murders, and was a member of the prestigious National Theatre founded by Laurence Olivier. Born to a Presbyterian minister, Peter was raised under strict expectations of morality and emotional restraint. His chosen artistic path was not without its obstacles, not only from his family, but also from the harsh realities of the entertainment industry, where he was often overshadowed by bigger names. Yet he remained dedicated to his work behind the scenes, taking on supporting roles and tirelessly striving to maintain his passion, a career that was stable but rarely in the public eye. His marriage to actress Angela Thorne, who would later star in To the Manor Born, was a stable one in his life. They married in 1967 and had 2 sons, Rupert and Lawrence, both of whom followed in their parents' footsteps into acting. However, Peter's final years were difficult. His long battle with bowel cancer not only drained him, but also cast a shadow over a deeply loving family. Although he never spoke publicly about his private grief, his silence in the face of adversity only deepened the tragedy. He died on 11th of March 2009 in Anglesey, aged 70. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at $1 million, the result of a lifetime of quiet dedication to art. Richard Thorpe, as Lovejoy Richard Stanley. Thorpe was born on January 2, 1932 in Purley, England. At the age of 49, he appeared in the series To the Manor as Lovejoy, a railway official who appeared in an episode about the closure of the local station. Despite his brief appearance, his heartfelt performance left a lasting impression. Away from the limelight, Thorpe's life was marked by quiet cracks. He endured 3 failed marriages and fathered 4 children with 3 different wives. In a rare interview in 1995, Thorpe revealed that despite their separation, he and his last wife still lived under the same roof, a contradictory arrangement that reflected the mounting turmoil in his personal life. He was not a communicative person, but close colleagues sensed that he had suffered deep personal losses that he never spoke of. Behind his gentle and calm exterior was a man who suffered many silent wounds. Thorpe later struggled with health issues, particularly after knee surgery in 2009, which forced him to take nearly a year off set. When he returned, his role as Alan Turner had been significantly reduced, something he once complained about, mildly, as he was no longer used as much as he had been. But he persevered, perhaps because the set was the last place he felt truly needed. Richard Thorpe died on May 22, 2013, in Leeds, at the age of 81. With a career spanning over half a century, including a 30-year run on Emmerdale, his net worth is estimated at $1,000, a modest sum but well worth the lifetime of hard work and sincere contributions to those who knew him. Daphne Oxenford as Mrs. Patterson. Daphne Oxenford was born on October 31, 1919, in London, England. She joined the beloved sitcom To the Manor, which debuted in 1981, at the age of 62, playing Miss Bird, a charming family sidekick who often appeared in the background of traditional English village life. Although she only appeared in a few episodes, she left an impression with her natural, humorous, and subtle performance, reflecting her signature storytelling style. This was one of her final television roles before she gradually retired from the screen. But the road to the limelight was a long and bumpy one. Daphne's childhood was cut short by the early death of her father, forcing her mother, a writer, to raise her alone in poverty. After studying acting at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, she worked a variety of jobs during the war, including censoring soldiers' love letters, a job she once described as heartbreaking. During this time, she also suffered a miscarriage of her first child, a pain she never spoke of again. In 1951, she married David Marshall and had 2 daughters. But married life was not always smooth. The pressures of work, long touring roles, and her husband's long-term illness led her to consider leaving the stage many times. Despite all this, Daphne continued to quietly devote herself to the arts. She became a beloved figure on British radio on the children's show Listen with Mother, immortalized by the phrase, "Are you comfortable? I'll begin." Few people know that even in her prime, she was once cut from a major role because she was not well known enough, a blow that nearly caused her to give up acting. In her final years after her husband's death in 2003, Daphne lived quietly at Denville Hall, an actor's retirement home, where she was cared for by colleagues who had admired her from her heyday on stage and radio. Daphne Oxenford died on December 21, 2012, at the age of 93. With hundreds of roles on stage, television, and radio over 60 years, her net worth is estimated at $1 million, enough to sleep peacefully and be remembered by a generation of loyal audiences. Ben Arris as Spalding Benjamin. Patrick Arris was born on March 16, 1937 in London. At the age of 43, he appeared in the series To the Manor Born as Spalding, a minor character who appeared in 3 episodes between 1980 and 1981. Although his role was not large, his witty, aristocratic style helped shape the show's signature comedic tone. Behind his charming exterior and calm acting was a tumultuous life. After completing his military service, Arris devoted himself to supporting roles for more than 4 decades, appearing in films such as Get Carter, The Charge of the Light Brigade, and collaborating with director Ken Russell. However, a lack of a real leading role kept him from achieving mainstream fame. Over time, this led to feelings of frustration, low self-esteem, and depression, burdens he kept hidden behind closed doors. A divorce in the late 1980s is said to have been a major emotional blow, causing him to withdraw even further into private life. In his final years, Arris lived quietly in Surrey, away from the limelight. Although he continued to appear in small roles on television and on stage, including in The Lady in the Van, alongside Dame Maggie Smith, his health began to fail. By the time he was diagnosed with cancer, it was too late. He was no longer strong enough to continue acting, and in his final months, he lived in solitude, although his son, the actor Jonathan Arris, remained by his side. Benjamin Arris died on September 4, 2003, at the age of 66. His net worth was estimated at $500,000, a figure that reflected a solid but never so great career. Time may fade many things, but those faces, those voices, live on in the memories of millions.